The goal of this study is to determine if the use of enhanced efficiency fertilizers can improve nitrogen use efficiency of spring-banded applications of urea for spring wheat. More specifically, we want to know if a product containing a nitrification inhibitor, for example, eNtrench, or a dual urease nitrification inhibitor like SuperU, can increase grain yield or grain protein in spring wheat. We can lose nitrogen through ammonia volatilization and denitrification, which releases dinitrogen gas and nitrous oxide. It's not economical to be losing nitrogen in any form, but only nitrous oxide is a greenhouse gas of concern. Nitrous oxide emissions are going to be higher when soil moisture levels are high, and we certainly had a lot of that this year at this location. Both eNtrench and SuperU have been reported to reduce nitrous oxide emissions from spring side-banded applications, but these studies were unable to detect a corresponding yield benefit. Some studies have shown a yield benefit from side-banding SuperU, but this was when the fertilizer was either shallow-banded with canola or was side-banded with winter wheat. Shallow banding is more prone to volatilization loss of ammonia, and side-banding nitrogen with winter wheat will be more prone to denitrification, as it sits in the moist soil from early fall to early spring before it's used by the crop. We're not measuring any gas emissions in this study, as we're not equipped to do so. We are simply trying to see if we can detect any yield or grain protein benefit from using these products in the sideband. Using these products in the sideband is going to be hard to sell to producers if the practice is not economic. So let's see if we were able to detect anything. Here's the treatment list for the study. We're looking at urea, eNtrench, and SuperU at 80, 120, and 160 pounds of soil plus added fertilizer nitrogen. The agriarm sites participating in the site include Yorkton, Prince Albert, Scott, Indian Head, and Melfort. When analyzing all sites together, a significant response to increasing soil plus fertilizer N was detected, but a site by nitrogen interaction was detected, indicating that the response differed between sites. When we look at the sites individually, we can see Melfort had a very strong and significant response. Responses were also significant at Indian Head and Yorkton, but yield increases were lower. At Prince Albert and Scott, yield responses to added nitrogen were not statistically significant. So overall, yield was responsive to added nitrogen at most sites. However, no significant yield differences between products were detected when combining all sites. There were no interactions between product and site, product by nitrogen, or product by nitrogen by site. In other words, we could not detect a yield benefit from side-banding either eNtrench or SuperU over straight urea at any of the sites. None of these numeric differences are statistically significant. The story was very similar for the grain protein. For all the sites combined, grain protein significantly increased in response to added nitrogen. Again, a significant nitrogen by site interaction was detected, indicating that while grain protein at every site increased with added nitrogen, some sites responded more than others. But it looks like grain protein should be a good indicator of how much nitrogen was available for plant uptake. However, like the yield data showed, there were no significant effects of product on grain protein when data was combined from all sites. The lack of any significant interactions meant the effect of increasing nitrogen on grain protein was the same, regardless of product used for each individual site. Again, none of these numeric differences are statistically significant. Conclusions. There was no evidence in terms of either yield or grain protein to suggest that nitrogen use efficiency could be improved by side-banding with either eNtrench or SuperU instead of urea. While we did not measure nitrogen losses directly, the results from this study suggest that neither denitrification, leaching, or volatilization losses were enough to reduce yield potential or grain protein when the urea was side-banded deep. However, in another trial conducted on the same site, we did find some evidence to suggest SuperU over urea could reduce N losses when product was shallow banded. The results of that trial are available by following this link. Thanks to SCAP for supporting this project.